You cheated and finally saw what that looks like.
The needle went in clean, but my phone buzzed with the kind of message that makes your arterial pressure spike right when they're trying to draw it. LOL, you actually thought I'd cancel my Vegas trip for your surgery? I stared at Dana's text while the phlebotomist finished filling the third vial. Pre-op blood work for what my cardiologist called a routine but necessary procedure. Routine. Right. Like the way Dana routinely forgot I existed unless she needed something. The nurse, her badge read Bethany, noticed me holding the phone like it might bite me. Bad news, she asked, pressing gauze against the needle site. Just my wife reminding me where I stand in her priorities. I typed back, my mistake. Bethany's eyes flicked to my phone screen before she could stop herself. In a hospital, you see everything. Family members who never visit. Spouses who treat medical emergencies like minor inconveniences. She'd probably witnessed this exact scene 100 times. You're not the first man to be left here, she said quietly, taping down the gauze. But maybe you can be the last to let her get away with it. Something in her voice made me look up. Bethany wasn't being dramatic or playing therapist. She was stating a fact with the same clinical precision she'd used to find my vein on the first try. What do you mean? People show you who they are. Question is whether you're done pretending not to see it. My phone buzzed again. Dana, probably wondering why I wasn't begging her to stay or promising to reschedule my heart procedure around her girls' weekend. Instead, she'd sent a photo from the airport. Her and 3 friends posing with champagne glasses, caption reading, Vegas baby, some people know how to prioritize fun. The timestamp showed she'd posted it 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes. She'd been at the airport when she sent that first text, probably laughing with her friends about her pathetic husband who thought a cardiac procedure was more important than her vacation. She's already gone, I said, more to myself than to Bethany. Surgery's tomorrow at 7 a.m., Bethany said, pulling up my chart. You'll need someone to drive you home. I'll figure it out. She looked at me for a long moment. My shift ends at 6. I can pick you up if you need. You don't even know me. I know enough. She handed me a card with her number written on the back. Call if you need a ride. Or if you need someone to remind you that you deserve better than this. I pocketed the card and walked out to the parking garage, where Dana's BMW should have been parked next to my Honda. Empty space. She'd taken her car to the airport rather than ride with me to my appointment like we'd planned. My mistake, indeed. But maybe Bethany was right. Maybe I was done making them. The surgery went fine. If you consider fine to be waking up alone in recovery with a heart monitor beeping reminders that you're alive, while your wife posts Instagram stories from a poolside cabana. I'd asked for minimal anesthesia, told them I had a high pain tolerance. What I really wanted was to be conscious enough to remember this feeling, the clarity that comes when someone strips away your last illusion about who they are. Bethany checked on me during her rounds. Professional but kind, the way nurses are with patients who don't have families hovering around demanding updates. How are you feeling? Like I just learned something valuable. She smiled at that. Pain can be educational. Did my wife call? No. I appreciated that she didn't lie or make excuses. Dana hadn't called because Dana didn't care. Simple as that. My cousin Marcus showed up around noon with a bag from the deli I liked and an expression that suggested he'd been checking Dana's social media. You see her latest post? He asked, unwrapping a sandwich. I'm trying not to. She's at some rooftop bar. Caption says, living my best life with my girls. Posted 2 hours ago. Marcus had been telling me for years that Dana was poison-wrapped in designer clothes and a marketing degree. I'd always defended her, made excuses, found ways to explain away her casual cruelties. Not anymore. I'm done, I said. Done with what? All of it. The marriage, the pretending, the excuses. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What are you going to do? I thought about Bethany's words, about deserving better, about people showing you who they are. I'm going to stop making mistakes. The discharge nurse handed me a packet of post-op instructions and a prescription for pain medication I didn't need. Physical pain was nothing compared to the ache of realizing you'd wasted 5 years loving someone who saw you as a convenience. Marcus drove me home to the apartment Dana and I shared, the one we'd picked together, decorated together, filled with memories that now felt like evidence of my own stupidity. Her clothes were gone from the closet. Makeup cleared out of the bathroom. She'd packed for Vegas like she was moving out permanently, taking everything that mattered to her, which apparently wasn't me. I sat on our couch, my couch now, and pulled out my phone. Dana had posted 17 stories from Vegas. Pool shots, cocktail photos, group selfies with her friends making kissy faces at the camera. Not one mention of my surgery. Not one moment of concern or regret. Perfect. I screenshotted every single post, noting the timestamps, evidence of priorities, documentation of character. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hope you're feeling better. Remember what I said about deserving better. Bethany, I typed back. Thank you, I'm starting to believe you're right. She responded immediately. Good. Some lessons are worth learning. I spent the rest of the evening thinking about lessons, about mistakes, about the difference between revenge and justice, between anger and clarity. Dana thought she'd taught me that I didn't matter, but what she'd really taught me was that I'd been playing by the wrong rules for too long. Time to change the game. Dana returned from Vegas on Sunday evening with a tan, a hangover, and the kind of aggressive cheerfulness that meant she felt guilty about something. How was the surgery, baby? She asked, dropping her designer luggage by the door like she expected me to carry it upstairs. You look good. It went fine. No complications. She kissed my cheek, the perfunctory peck wives give husbands when they're checking a box on their mental to-do list. I missed you, she said, already scrolling through her phone. Vegas was amazing, but there's nothing like coming home. I watched her, noting the careful way she avoided eye contact, the practiced delivery of lines that sounded like she'd rehearsed them on the plane. I saw your posts, I said. Looked like you had fun. Oh, you know how it is with the girls. We get a little crazy. She laughed, but it sounded forced. I hope you didn't mind me going. I know the timing wasn't perfect. The timing wasn't perfect. Like my heart surgery was a minor scheduling conflict rather than a medical emergency. It's fine, I said. I learned a lot while you were gone. Oh yeah? Like what? Like how to manage expectations. Something in my tone made her look up from her phone. For just a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Graham, you're not mad, are you? Because you know I support you, but I'd already paid for the trip and the girls were counting on me and I'm not mad, and I wasn't. Mad was what you felt when someone disappointed you. What I felt was something colder, more useful. Clarity. My phone rang. Dana glanced at the caller ID. County General. Mr. Barrett? Bethany's voice was professional, but I caught the hint of something else. I wanted to follow up on your discharge instructions. How are you feeling? Much better, thanks. The procedure went smoothly. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear you're recovering well. A pause. Is your wife there? I'd like to go over some of the post-operative care instructions with her. Dana was already reaching for the phone, her PR instincts kicking in. She hated being left out of conversations that involved her. I handed her the phone. It's my nurse. She wants to talk to you about my care. Hello, this is Dana Barrett, she said in her professional voice. Graham's wife. I couldn't hear Bethany's side of the conversation, but I watched Dana's expression change from confident to confused to something approaching panic. I'm sorry, what? Dana said. Emergency complications? When did this happen? She looked at me, eyes wide. No, I was out of town. I didn't know. Her voice got smaller. How serious was it? A longer pause. I see. Yes, thank you for calling. She hung up and stared at me. She said you had emergency heart rhythm complications during surgery, that you almost died. I nodded. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone call me? I told them not to. What do you mean you told them not to? I mean, I told the hospital staff not to contact my next of kin in case of complications. Dana's face went white. Graham, that's insane. What if something had happened to you? Something did happen to me. I kept my voice level, matter of fact. I realized my wife cares more about her Instagram stories than my life. That's not fair, isn't it? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot I'd taken of her airport post, timestamped 20 minutes before she'd texted me about not canceling her trip. You were already at the gate when you sent that text, already had your champagne, already decided I wasn't worth staying for. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. I'm going to bed, I said. Early day tomorrow. Graham, wait. Can we talk about this? We just did? I left her standing in the living room, holding her phone like it might contain answers to questions she was just beginning to understand how to ask. Upstairs, I found a text from Bethany. "How did that go?" "Perfectly," I typed back. "Thank you." "Anytime. Sometimes people need help seeing the truth." I smiled in the darkness of my bedroom. Dana was about to learn a lot of truths, and I was done protecting her from them. Monday morning brought the first consequence of Dana's Vegas adventure, though she didn't know it yet. I was making coffee when her phone started buzzing with missed calls from her office. She stumbled downstairs in her robe, hair still messy from sleep, grabbing her phone with the frantic energy of someone whose career depends on being available 24/7. "Hello?" she answered, still half asleep. "Richard?" "What do you mean, pulled from the account?" I pretended to read the news on my tablet while she paced around the kitchen, her voice getting higher and more defensive. "I don't understand. My performance has been exemplary. The Crawford campaign was a huge success, and the Morrison product launch exceeded all projections." A longer pause. Her face went pale. "What memo?" I took a sip of coffee, savoring both the bitter taste and the bitter irony. "No, I haven't seen any memo. What are you talking about?" She caught me watching her and turned away, lowering her voice. "Richard, I need you to be specific. What exactly are people saying about me?" Another pause. This one longer. "I see. Yes, I'll be in this morning. We need to discuss this in person." She hung up and stared at her phone like it had just delivered a cancer diagnosis. "Everything okay at work?" I asked. "Someone sent a memo to the entire office. About me." "About—" She looked at me, confusion and fear warring on her face. "About my personal conduct." "That's unfortunate. What kind of personal conduct?" Richard wouldn't say over the phone. "Just that it was inappropriate for someone in client relations." I nodded sympathetically. "I'm sure it's just office politics. You know how these things get blown out of proportion?" She rushed upstairs to get dressed, and I heard the shower running, followed by the sounds of her tearing through her closet looking for her most professional outfit. Damage control mode. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Did you see Dana's work email got hacked? Someone forwarded all her Vegas photos to her office mailing list." I hadn't hacked anything, but I had forwarded screenshots of her public Instagram posts, along with the timestamps showing when she'd posted them, to an anonymous email account I'd created. And I'd sent those screenshots with a brief note about professional conduct concerns to the general inbox at Dana's PR firm. Public information, shared publicly, no hacking required. I texted Marcus back, "I don't know anything about any hacking," which was technically true. I knew about forwarding, about screenshots, about anonymous emails, but nothing about hacking. Dana came downstairs dressed in her most conservative business suit, makeup perfect despite the panic in her eyes. "I have to go," she said. "This is probably just a misunderstanding, but I need to get ahead of it." "Of course. I hope everything works out." She paused at the door. "Graham, you don't know anything about this, do you?" "About what?" "About someone sending information about me to my office?" I looked at her with the expression of innocent concern I'd perfected over 5 years of marriage to someone who regularly lied to my face. "Honey, I don't even know your office email address. How would I send anyone anything about you?" True again. I'd sent the screenshots to the public contact form on their website. Anyone could do that. She studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "You're right, I'm just stressed. I'll call you later." After she left, I sat in the quiet kitchen and thought about the memo that was probably being discussed in conference rooms across Minneapolis right now. Screenshots of Dana posing with cocktails while her husband underwent emergency surgery. Timestamps showing her priorities, her own words in her own texts, demonstrating the casual cruelty she thought nobody would ever see. No lies, no exaggeration. Just the truth, presented without comment. My phone rang. Bethany. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. "Better than I have in years." "Good. Listen, I wanted to ask you something. Would you be interested in meeting for coffee sometime? Not as a nurse checking on a patient, just as someone who thinks you deserve better than what you've been accepting." I thought about Dana, probably sitting in her boss's office right now, trying to explain away evidence of her own character. "I'd like that," I said. "I'd like that very much." "Great. There's a place called Grind on 5th Street. Tomorrow at 10? I'll be there. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and did something I'd been thinking about since yesterday. I started a blog. The first post was simple. My wife told me I was a mistake for thinking she'd cancel her vacation for my heart surgery. She was right about one thing, it was a mistake. My mistake was thinking she was someone she's not. I'm done making that mistake. I didn't use her name, didn't identify her or her company, just told the truth about what happened in simple, clear language. And then I shared it on Reddit, in a forum for people dealing with difficult relationships. Within an hour, it had 50 upvotes and a dozen comments from people sharing similar stories. By lunch, it had 1,000. The truth, it turned out, was more viral than Dana's Vegas photos. Dana didn't come home until after 9 that evening, and when she did, she looked like she'd aged 5 years in one day. "We need to talk," she said, dropping her purse by the door with none of her usual care for her expensive things. "Rough day at the office?" "Don't," her voice cracked. "Just don't pretend you don't know what's happening." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reading comments on my blog post. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive, with hundreds of people sharing their own stories of being abandoned by partners during medical crises. "I'm not pretending anything. You look upset." "What happened?" She sat down across from me, and I could see she'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged, despite obvious attempts to fix it. "Someone sent screenshots to everyone in my office. Screenshots of my Instagram posts from Vegas, with timestamps showing exactly when I posted them. That sounds embarrassing." "Embarrassing?" Her voice pitched higher. "Graham, they had the text messages. Our private text messages. Someone sent my boss screenshots of me telling you I wasn't canceling my trip for your surgery." I closed my laptop and gave her my full attention. "That does sound bad. Bad doesn't begin to cover it. Richard called it conduct unbecoming of someone in client relations. I'm being transferred to internal projects, no more client contact, no more business development. Basically, I'm being demoted to filing and data entry." "I'm sorry to hear that." She stared at me. Are you? Are you really sorry?" "I'm sorry you're learning that actions have consequences. I'm sorry you're discovering that your private character affects your professional reputation. I'm sorry it took public humiliation for you to understand that other people's opinions of you actually matter." "You did this?" "I had heart surgery while you partied in Vegas. That's what I did." "Don't play games with me, Graham." "Someone with access to our private messages sent them to my office. Someone who wanted to hurt me professionally." I leaned back in my chair. "Dana, you posted those Vegas photos publicly. Anyone could screenshot them. As for our text messages, you sent them to me. They're on my phone that I own, with messages sent to me. There's nothing private about someone sharing their own text messages." Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to form words that wouldn't come. "You son of a witch." There it is. The real Dana. Not the fake concern about my surgery or the crocodile tears about your job. Just pure rage that someone finally held you accountable. She stood up, pacing now. "You have no idea what you've done. My career is ruined. My reputation is destroyed. All because you couldn't handle me taking one weekend for myself. I handled you taking the weekend. What I couldn't handle was you lying about it, being cruel about it, and treating my medical emergency like an inconvenience to your social calendar. I made one mistake." "No," I interrupted. "You made years of mistakes. This was just the first time there were consequences." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, saw your post about your wife. Thought you should know she was all over some married guy at the Bellagio bar Friday night. Got pictures if you want them." Anonymous. I showed Dana the message. Her face went white. "I don't know what they're talking about." "Of course you don't." I stood up. "I'm going to bed, early morning tomorrow." "Graham, wait. We need to figure this out. We need to fix this." "There's nothing to figure out. You showed me who you are. I believed you. Now other people believe you too." I paused at the bottom of the stairs. "Oh, and Dana? That anonymous person who sent me the message about your Friday night activities. They want to know if I'd like to see the pictures. Should I tell them yes?" The look of panic that crossed her face told me everything I needed to know about what had really happened in Vegas. "It wasn't what it looked like," she whispered. It never is, I said, and went upstairs. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. Not the manipulative tears she'd used on me for years, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd finally pushed too far and realized there was no way back. I slept better that night than I had in months. Coffee with Bethany turned into 2 hours of the best conversation I'd had in years. She was funny, direct, and completely unimpressed by the kind of drama that had consumed my marriage. When I told her about Dana's meltdown the night before, she just shook her head. Classic narcissist pattern, she said, stirring her latte. Create a crisis, play the sufferer when there are consequences, then blame everyone else for the fallout. You see this a lot in your work? Hospital work shows you every kind of human behavior. Family members who abandon each other, spouses who can't be bothered to visit, people who only show up when someone's dying because they want to be in the will. She smiled. But I also see the good ones. The partners who sleep in uncomfortable chairs for weeks, who learn medical terminology so they can ask better questions, who put their lives on hold because love means showing up. Which kind was I? You were the kind who made excuses for someone who didn't deserve them. We walked around downtown Minneapolis afterward, talking about books, work, places we'd traveled. Normal conversation between two adults who respected each other. I'd forgotten how good that felt. When we got back to my car, Bethany hesitated. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. What's your endgame here? With Dana, I mean. Are you trying to save your marriage, or are you done? I thought about it. I'm done trying to save something that was never real. As for what happens next, I shrugged. I guess that depends on her. And if she tries to fight back? If she tries to hurt you the way you're hurting her? With what? The truth about me? That I'm a loyal husband who supported his wife's career, paid for her lifestyle, and never cheated or lied or abandoned her when she needed me most? I smiled. She could tell everyone in Minneapolis the truth about me, and it would only make me look better. Bethany laughed. You know what I like about you, Graham? You're not angry. Angry people make stupid mistakes. But you're not angry. You're something much more dangerous. What's that? Disappointed. When I got home, Dana was waiting with her laptop open and a stack of printouts spread across the coffee table. I know what you did, she said without looking up. What did I do? The blog post? My mistake. It's gone viral. There are news articles about it. A podcast wants to interview you. She finally looked at me. You made me nationally famous for being a terrible wife. I sat down across from her and looked at the printouts. Articles from relationship websites, comments from social media, screenshots of my blog post being shared thousands of times. I didn't make you anything, I said. I just told the truth about what happened. You told your version of what happened. Feel free to tell yours, start a blog, share your side of the story. Explain why your husband's heart surgery was less important than your Vegas vacation. She stared at me. People are calling me a monster. Are you? Of course not. I made one bad decision. You made a series of decisions that revealed your character. The Vegas trip, the cruel text, the social media posts, the complete lack of concern for my health. People aren't judging you for one bad decision. They're judging you for showing them exactly who you are. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Barrett, this is Jennifer Walsh from the Second Chances podcast. We'd love to have you on the show to discuss your blog post about your wife's behavior during your medical emergency. Would you be interested? I looked at Dana, who was listening to every word. I'd be happy to share my story, I said. When would you like to record? Are you available this afternoon? We could do it remote, just a phone interview. It would air tomorrow. Perfect. Send me the details. After I hung up, Dana was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. You're actually going to do podcast interviews about me? About my experience? About what it's like to realize you don't matter to the person who's supposed to love you most? Graham, please, I'm begging you, don't do this. My career is already destroyed. If this gets any bigger, then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate your husband publicly. She was crying again, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. For 5 years, I'd watched her manipulate people with tears and emotional breakdowns. I'd seen her turn on the waterworks to get out of traffic tickets to guilt friends into doing favors, to make me feel bad for asking reasonable questions about her behavior. But tears only work on people who care about your feelings. And I'd finally stopped caring about hers. The interview is at 3, I said, standing up. You might want to find somewhere else to be, unless you want to hear me tell the truth about our marriage on national radio. I left her sitting in the wreckage of her reputation, surrounded by printouts of her own words coming back to haunt her. Some lessons I was learning were expensive, but they were also permanent. The podcast interview went viral before it even aired. Jennifer Walsh had leaked clips on social media, and by Thursday morning, #MyMistake was trending on Twitter. People were sharing their own stories of being abandoned by partners during medical crises, relationship emergencies, and family disasters. I'd become the accidental spokesperson for a movement I didn't even know existed. Dana had moved into the guest bedroom and was barely speaking to me, which made the house more peaceful than it had been in months. She spent most of her time on her laptop, probably reading the thousands of comments about her behavior and watching her social media mentions turn increasingly hostile. I was getting ready for work when she appeared in the kitchen, dressed professionally despite having nowhere important to go. "We need to talk about damage control," she said. "We? This affects both of us, Graham. Your story is making me look like a monster, but it's also making you look like a sufferer. Is that really the image you want?" I poured coffee into my travel mug. "What image would you prefer? Loyal husband graciously accepting his wife's priorities? Devoted partner who understands that Vegas trips are more important than heart surgery? I want people to understand the context, the complexity of our relationship. The pressures I was under at work, the fact that your surgery was supposed to be routine. It was routine until it wasn't. Until I had complications and nearly died while you were posting poolside selfies." Her jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" I set down my mug and looked at her directly. "Here's what would be fair. You acknowledging that you made terrible choices, apologizing sincerely, and accepting the consequences instead of trying to spin them into my fault. I have apologized. No, you've made excuses. You've explained your reasoning. You've justified your decisions. But you've never once said, 'I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I understand why you're hurt.'" She opened her mouth, then closed it. My phone buzzed. Marcus texting a link to a local news website. The headline read, "Local PR Executive's Career in Jeopardy After Husband's Viral Blog Post About Medical Abandonment." The article included a photo of Dana from her company website and quotes from several of her former clients expressing concern about her personal conduct and whether it reflected her professional values. "You might want to see this," I said, showing her the phone. She read the article, her face going paler with each paragraph. "They quoted my clients. They're questioning whether they want to work with someone who abandons family members during medical emergencies. Reputation matters in PR, right? Isn't that what you always told me?" She looked up at me, and for the first time since this started, I saw real fear in her eyes. "Graham, I could lose my job over this." "You've already lost your job. You told me yesterday they transferred you to data entry. I could lose it completely. Richard's been getting calls all week. Clients asking if I still work there. Competitors using this to question our company's values." She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. "I want you to accept responsibility for your choices." "And then what? You'll make it all go away?" I picked up my coffee and headed for the door. "I can't make anything go away, Dana. I'm not the one who created this situation. I just stopped pretending it didn't exist." At work, I found 17 interview requests in my email. Radio shows, podcasts, online magazines, even a producer from a morning talk show wanting to discuss relationship accountability in the social media age. I was reading through them when my desk phone rang. Graham Barrett speaking. "Mr. Barrett, this is Kyle Rowan. I think we need to talk." The name took me a second to place. Then I remembered the anonymous text about Dana's Friday night activities in Vegas. "I'm listening. I understand you have some information about me and your wife. Information that could be problematic for both of us if it became public." "Do I? Look, I'll be direct. What happened in Vegas was a mistake. A moment of poor judgment after too many drinks. Dana and I are both married. Both have careers that could be affected by scandal. I'm hoping we can handle this like adults." "What exactly are you proposing?" I'm proposing we both forget anything happened. No one needs to get hurt over a stupid mistake. I thought about Dana's panic when I'd shown her that anonymous text. About her immediate denial, followed by, "It wasn't what it looked like. Mr. Rowan, I think you might have me confused with someone who cares what you and my wife did in Vegas." A pause. "I'm sorry? I don't care if you slept with her. I don't care if she slept with you. I don't care if you made out in the bar or held hands by the pool or got matching tattoos. My marriage was over the moment she decided her vacation was more important than my health. So you won't be sharing any information about us?" "I don't have any information about you. I have a text from someone claiming to have pictures, but I never asked to see them. As far as I'm concerned, you're just another stranger my wife met while she was abandoning her husband." Another pause. "Oh, someone told me you were planning to expose our affair." "Affair?" I laughed. "Mr. Rowan, you're giving yourself way too much credit. You were a distraction during a weekend when my wife should have been taking care of her husband. Nothing more, nothing less." "I see. Well, thank you for being reasonable about this." "Don't thank me. Thank the fact that I have bigger problems than whatever you did with my soon-to-be ex-wife." I hung up and stared at the phone for a moment. Soon-to-be ex-wife. I'd said it without thinking, but it felt right. It felt like the truth. By Friday, Dana's panic had evolved into something more dangerous: desperation. I came home to find her on the couch with her laptop, surrounded by tissues and empty coffee cups. "I've been thinking," she said without looking up, "about us, about how to fix this." "There's nothing to fix. There's only accepting reality." "I don't accept that." She closed the laptop and looked at me directly. 5 years of marriage doesn't end because of one weekend. You're right. It ends because of 5 years of being married to someone who thinks one weekend of partying is more important than one day of supporting your spouse through a medical emergency. She flinched. "I want to go to couples counseling." "No." "Graham, please. We can work through this. People forgive worse things than what I did. I'm not interested in forgiveness. I'm interested in honesty. And honestly, I don't want to be married to someone capable of treating me the way you did." She stood up, pacing now. "Fine. You want honesty? Here's honesty. You're destroying my entire life over one mistake. My career is ruined. My reputation is destroyed. My friends won't return my calls. You're taking one bad weekend and turning it into a public execution." I shared my experience. Other people drew their own conclusions. "Your experience?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Your version of events. Your carefully crafted narrative, designed to make me look like a monster, and you look like a saint. What part of my narrative was inaccurate? The part where you pretend you're perfect. The part where you act like 5 years of marriage meant nothing to me. The part where you make it sound like I never cared about you. Did you care about me when you texted LOL about my surgery? Did you care when you posted poolside photos while I was in recovery? Did you care when you lied about it being a routine procedure to avoid looking bad?" Her face crumpled. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it, so I pretended everything was fine. You were scared, so you abandoned me. You didn't know how to handle my medical emergency, so you went to Vegas instead. Do you hear yourself? I made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose yourself over me, your image over my health, your fun over my needs. And when people judged you for that choice, you decided it was my fault for telling them about it. She was crying again, but this time it felt different. Less manipulative, more genuine. "I don't know how to fix this," she whispered. "You can't fix it, that's the point. Some choices can't be undone." My phone rang. Bethany. "Hey," I answered, watching Dana's face tighten at the sound of another woman's voice. "I wanted to check on you. Saw the news article today. How are you holding up?" "Better than expected. Want to grab dinner tonight?" "I'd love that. Same place as yesterday." "Perfect. 7 o'clock. After I hung up, Dana was staring at me. "Who was that?" "A friend." "What kind of friend?" "The kind who shows up when people need them." The implication hit her like a physical blow. "You're dating someone." "I'm having dinner with someone who treats me with respect." "If you want to call that dating, go ahead. We're still married, Graham. Legally, Yes, in every other way that matters. No. She grabbed her purse and keys. I'm going to my sister's. I need some space to think. Good idea. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and thought about the week that had changed everything. 7 days ago, I'd been a man making excuses for a woman who didn't deserve them. Now I was someone who'd stopped accepting unacceptable behavior. The transformation hadn't been dramatic or sudden. It had been a series of small moments, choosing truth over peace, consequences over comfort, self-respect over false unity. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Saw Dana's car at her sister's place. She moving out? Taking a break to think, I replied. About what? How to be a decent human being. I smiled and typed back, too late for that. Dinner with Bethany was exactly what I needed. She listened without judgment, offered perspective without advice, and treated me like a person worth knowing rather than a problem to be managed. Can I ask you something? She said over dessert. Anything. Are you doing this for revenge, or are you doing it because it's right? I thought about it. What's the difference? Revenge is about hurting someone who hurt you. Justice is about consequences matching actions. One is about anger, the other is about truth. Then I guess I'm interested in justice, she smiled. Good answer. When I got home, Dana's car was back in the driveway, but the house was dark. I found her in the guest bedroom, asleep on top of the covers, still fully dressed. On her nightstand was a printed resignation letter, addressed to her boss. I read it without guilt. After everything she'd put me through, her privacy was no longer my concern. The letter was 2 sentences. Effective immediately, I am resigning from my position at Barrett and Associates Public Relations. Thank you for the opportunity to work with your team. Short, professional, and devoid of explanation or excuse. For the first time in a week, Dana had done something that surprised me in a good way. She was accepting responsibility for her choices, even if she was doing it quietly. I left the letter where I'd found it and went to my own bedroom. Tomorrow would bring new consequences, new realizations, new opportunities for both of us to show who we really were. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Saturday morning brought the kind of reckoning that changes everything. I was making coffee when Dana appeared in the kitchen, dressed in sweatpants and looking like she'd aged a decade overnight. I'm resigning, she said without preamble. I saw the letter. She nodded, not surprised. Richard called yesterday afternoon. 3 more clients canceled. The board wants me gone by Monday. I'm sorry it came to that. Are you? She poured herself coffee with shaky hands. Because this is what you wanted, isn't it? My career destroyed, my reputation ruined, my life in pieces. What I wanted was for you to understand that actions have consequences. What I wanted was for you to care more about your husband's surgery than your Instagram followers. What I wanted was an apology that didn't come with excuses. And now, I want a divorce. The words hung in the air between us like a physical presence. Graham, I've already contacted a lawyer. I'm filing Monday morning. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. This is really it? 5 years of marriage and you're just done? I was done the moment you sent that text from the airport. Everything since then has just been me accepting what I already knew. My phone buzzed. A text from Kyle Rowan. Need to meet. Urgent. My wife knows about Vegas. I showed Dana the message. Her face went white. What does that mean? It means your weekend friend is having his own consequence conversation. Graham, if his wife finds out about us, if she makes it public, then you'll deal with it the same way you've dealt with everything else this week. With the truth, she stared at me. You really don't care, do you? About what people will think, what they'll say? What will they say? That my cheating wife also cheated? That the woman who abandoned her husband during surgery also betrayed her marriage vows? Dana, you can't damage a reputation that's already destroyed. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a woman in her 40s, well-dressed, holding what looked like a tablet. Mrs. Rowan, I presume, I said, opening the door. Mr. Barrett? I'm Jennifer Rowan. I believe we need to discuss my husband and your wife. I invited her in, noting how Dana shrank back against the kitchen counter. Please sit down. Can I get you coffee? Thank you. Jennifer Rowan had the composed bearing of someone accustomed to handling crises. I'm here because I received some interesting information about Kyle's business trip to Las Vegas last weekend. She opened her tablet and showed us a series of photos. Kyle and Dana at a bar, Kyle and Dana by a pool, Kyle and Dana kissing in what looked like a hotel corridor. These were sent to me yesterday by someone who said they thought I should know what my husband was doing while I was home with our children. Dana had gone completely pale. Mrs. Rowan, she started. I can explain. Please don't. Jennifer's voice was calm but cold. I'm not here for explanations or apologies. I'm here to inform you both that I'm filing for divorce and pursuing a very public custody battle. Kyle's infidelity will be documented, photographed, and presented to everyone who matters in this city. She looked at Dana directly. I understand you're already experiencing some professional difficulties related to your personal conduct. I wanted to let you know that this situation will not remain private. My lawyer will be contacting the media with the full story of Kyle's Vegas adventure. Please, Dana whispered. My career is already destroyed. I've lost everything. Then you understand exactly how I feel. Jennifer stood up. The difference is, I didn't choose this. You did. After she left, Dana collapsed into a chair. This is a nightmare. It's never going to end. It'll end when people stop talking about it, which will happen when something more interesting comes along. How can you be so calm about this? I sat down across from her. Because none of this is happening to me. It's happening to you because of choices you made. I'm just a bystander watching consequences unfold. We're married, Graham. What happens to me affects you too. Not for much longer. She looked at me with something approaching desperation. What if I could fix this? What if I could make it right? How? I don't know, but what if I could? Would you consider staying married? Would you give us another chance? I thought about it seriously, which seemed to give her hope. Dana, the only way you could fix this is by becoming a completely different person. Someone who puts family before image. Someone who shows up when people need them. Someone who takes responsibility without making excuses. And even if you could become that person, which I doubt, I wouldn't trust that the change was real. I'd spend the rest of our marriage waiting for you to revert to who you actually are. So, there's nothing I can do. There's plenty you can do. You can learn from this. You can become a better person for your next relationship. You can use this experience to develop empathy and accountability. I stood up. But you can't undo what you've done to us. Some mistakes are permanent. She started crying again, but this time I didn't feel the usual urge to comfort her. I'm going out, I said. I'll be back this evening. Where are you going? To spend time with people who actually care about my well-being. I left her sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by the wreckage of her own choices, finally understanding that some consequences can't be talked away or spun into someone else's fault. Outside, the morning air felt crisp and clean, like the beginning of something new. Monday brought the divorce papers and a media circus that exceeded even my expectations. Jennifer Rowan had been as good as her word. The story of Kyle's Vegas affair was front-page news in the local paper, complete with photos and a detailed timeline that painted both Kyle and Dana as predatory narcissists who had betrayed their spouses for a weekend of selfish indulgence. The headline read, PR executive and realtor's Vegas affair destroys 2 marriages. I was reading the article over breakfast when Dana stumbled downstairs, looking like she hadn't slept. Have you seen this? I asked, showing her my phone. She glanced at it and winced. Jennifer Rowan wasn't kidding about going public. Apparently not. Kyle's real estate license is under review. His company has suspended him pending investigation. And according to this article, his wife is seeking primary custody of their children based on moral turpitude and abandonment of family responsibilities. Dana sat down across from me, looking defeated. What about me? You're described as the PR executive who abandoned her husband during emergency heart surgery to pursue an extramarital affair in Las Vegas. Oh, and they mention that you've resigned from your position due to professional conduct. Concerns? She put her head in her hands. I can't leave the house. There are reporters outside. I know. 3 of them asked me for comment when I got the paper. What did you tell them? That I'm focused on my recovery and my future, and that I wish everyone involved the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. She looked up at me. That's it? You didn't trash me publicly? Dana, I don't need to trash you publicly. Your actions speak louder than anything I could say. My phone rang. The lawyer I'd contacted Friday afternoon. Mr. Barrett, this is David Chen. I've prepared your divorce filing. Given the current media attention, I recommend we file today to control the narrative. I'll be there this afternoon. After I hung up, Dana was staring at me. You're really doing this. Today? I told you I was filing Monday. It's Monday. She was quiet for a long moment. Can I ask you one last favor? What? When you talk to reporters, when you give interviews, when you tell this story, will you at least acknowledge that I wasn't always like this? That there were good times? That I wasn't a complete monster for 5 years? I considered her request. What good times, Dana? Our wedding day, the vacation to Italy. When I got promoted and we celebrated. When your father died and I held you while you cried. I thought about those moments. They felt like memories from someone else's life. You want me to tell people that you were capable of kindness when it was convenient? That you could show love when it didn't cost you anything? That you were a good wife, except when I actually needed you to be one? I want you to tell people I'm human. Being human means accepting responsibility for your choices. It means acknowledging when you've hurt people. It means trying to make amends instead of making excuses. I stood up. When you start acting human, I'll consider describing you that way. At the lawyer's office, I reviewed the divorce petition one final time. Irreconcilable differences. No-fault divorce, equitable distribution of assets. Clean, simple, final. Are you sure about this timing? David asked. With all the media attention, this will be very public. I'm sure. I want it on record that I'm ending this marriage because of her choices, not because of the public embarrassment those choices caused. Understood. We'll file within the hour. When I got home, Dana was gone. Her car, her clothes, her laptop, her expensive skincare products, everything that mattered to her had vanished. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Graham, I'm staying at my sister's until I can figure out what comes next. I know you'll never forgive me, and I'm starting to understand that maybe you shouldn't. I hope someday you'll remember that I loved you, even if I was terrible at showing it when it mattered most. I'm sorry. Dana. I read the note twice, then put it in the drawer with all the other documents from our marriage that no longer meant anything. The house felt different without her presence. Quieter, but not empty. Peaceful, but not lonely. For the first time in years, it felt like home. My phone buzzed with a text from Bethany. Saw the news, how are you holding up? Better than expected, I typed back. Free for dinner? Always. Same place. Actually, how about my place? I'll cook. I'd like that. As I started planning dinner for someone who actually wanted to spend time with me, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. The beginning of a life where my needs mattered, where my health came first, where the people I loved actually loved me back. Dana had taught me a valuable lesson, though not the one she'd intended. She'd taught me that I deserved better than what I'd been accepting. And now, finally, I was ready to demand it. 6 weeks later, I was a different person, living a different life. The divorce had been finalized with remarkable speed, helped by Dana's complete capitulation on all financial matters. She'd kept her car and her personal belongings. I'd kept everything else, including the house that finally felt like mine. The media attention had mostly died down, though I still got occasional interview requests from relationship podcasts and men's support groups. I'd done a few, always focusing on the importance of self-respect and the danger of making excuses for people who don't respect you. Dana had left Minneapolis entirely. According to Marcus, who heard it from her sister, she'd moved to Portland and was working as a server while trying to rebuild her career. I felt nothing about this news except mild relief that she was far away. Kyle Rowan's life had imploded more dramatically than mine had improved. His wife had been awarded primary custody of their children, his real estate license had been suspended, and he'd been forced to sell his house to pay legal fees. Last I'd heard, he was living in a studio apartment and driving for a rideshare company. Justice, it turned out, was more satisfying than revenge. I was making dinner for Bethany, our Friday night tradition, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Graham, it's Dana. I hadn't heard her voice in over a month. It sounded smaller, less confident than I remembered. What do you want, Dana? I wanted to tell you something and to ask you something. I'm listening. I've been in therapy, real therapy, not just someone to vent to, and I'm starting to understand what I did to you, what I did to us. I waited. I was selfish, completely, utterly selfish. I treated you like a convenience instead of a partner. I prioritized my image over your health, my fun over your needs, my ego over your feelings. Her voice cracked. I was cruel to someone who loved me, and I convinced myself it was justified because you were always there, always forgiving, always making excuses for my behavior. Okay. I know it doesn't change anything. I know it doesn't fix what I broke. But I wanted you to know that I finally see it. I finally understand what I put you through. I thought about the conversation I'd had with Bethany the night before, about forgiveness and closure, about the difference between healing and reconciliation. I appreciate you telling me that, I said. What did you want to ask? I wanted to ask if you think there's any chance, if you think someday we might be able to be friends. Not now, obviously. But someday when enough time has passed, when I've proven that I've really changed. I looked out the kitchen window where I could see Bethany's car pulling into the driveway. Dana, I think you can become a better person. I think you can learn from this experience and build healthier relationships in the future. But I also think some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I understand. I hope you find happiness in Portland. I hope therapy helps you become someone who deserves love, but that person isn't going to be part of my life. She was quiet for a long moment. I know, I had to ask. Take care of yourself, Dana. You too, Graham. And Graham? I know you'll probably never believe this, but I really did love you. I just loved myself more. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen thinking about love and selfishness, about the difference between caring about someone and caring about how they make you feel. Dana had loved me the way a child loves a favorite toy, possessively, carelessly, with the assumption that I would always be there, no matter how badly I was treated. But real love, the kind I was learning to recognize with Bethany, was about showing up, paying attention, making sacrifices when they mattered most. The doorbell rang. Bethany, with flowers and wine and the kind of smile that made me remember what it felt like to be wanted, rather than merely tolerated. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing me hello. "Better now that you're here." We cooked together, talked about our weeks, laughed about stupid movies, and shared stories about our childhoods. Normal couple things that felt revolutionary after years of walking on eggshells around someone's fragile ego. After dinner, we sat on my couch, our couch she'd started calling it, and she asked the question that had become our Friday night tradition. "What's the best thing that happened to you this week?" I thought about it. The promotion at work, the interview request from a national podcast, the quiet pleasure of living in a house where I didn't have to apologize for existing. "This," I said. "Right here, right now, this is the best thing." She curled up against me, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, complete contentment. Dana had been right about one thing. She had taught me a valuable lesson. She'd taught me the difference between a wife and a partner, between love and narcissism, between a mistake and a revelation of character. Most importantly, she'd taught me that I deserved better than what I'd been accepting. And now, finally, I had it. 1 year later, I was standing in the same hospital where this all began, but this time as a visitor rather than a patient. Marcus was having his appendix out, routine surgery, but he'd asked me to be there since his ex-wife was in Florida and his kids were at college. "You don't have to stay," he said, groggy from the anesthesia. "It's not like I'm dying or anything." "I'm staying," I said. "That's what family does." He smiled at that. "Family shows up." Exactly. While he slept, I walked down to the cafeteria and found Bethany finishing her shift. She'd been promoted to charge nurse 6 months ago and was working toward her nurse practitioner degree. "How's Marcus?" she asked. "Good. Should be home tomorrow." "And how are you?" "It's got to be weird being back here." I looked around at the familiar hallways, the antiseptic smell, the constant background noise of medical equipment, and hushed conversations. "It's not weird," I said. "It's full circle." We walked outside into the crisp October air. The leaves were changing, the same way they had been the day I'd gotten that text from Dana. But everything else was different. "I got a call today," I said as we reached our cars. "From a publisher. They want me to write a book about the whole experience. Are you going to do it? I think so. Not about revenge or getting even. About recognizing your worth, setting boundaries, choosing people who choose you back. She leaned against her car, studying my face. What would you call it? I smiled. My Mistake, with the subtitle, How Learning to Value Myself Changed Everything. I like it. Very full circle. That evening, Bethany and I had dinner with Marcus and his girlfriend Sarah, a kindergarten teacher who laughed at his terrible jokes and brought him soup when he was sick. The kind of woman who understood that love was a verb, not just a feeling. Watching them together reminded me of something I'd learned over the past year. The right person doesn't just make you happy when things are good. They make you feel loved when things are difficult. After they left, Bethany and I cleaned up the kitchen together, moving around each other with the practiced ease of two people who'd learned to share space without keeping score. Can I ask you something? She said, drying the last plate. Always? Do you ever think about her? About Dana? I considered the question honestly. Sometimes, but not the way you might expect. What do you mean? I think about her as a cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when you mistake someone's presence for their love, their words for their actions. I took the plate from her and put it in the cabinet. But mostly, I think about her as a teacher. She taught me that I was accepting behavior I should have rejected, making excuses I should have refused to make. Any regrets? About the marriage? Only that it took me so long to end it. About what came after? I pulled her close. Not a single one. Later that night, I sat in my home office working on the book proposal. The story had evolved from a simple revenge tale into something more complex, a meditation on self-worth, accountability, and the courage to demand better treatment from the people who claim to love you. The final chapter would be about the difference between justice and revenge, between consequences and cruelty, about how sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop accepting the unacceptable. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your interview on the podcast today. Thank you for sharing your story. It gave me the courage to leave my husband after 20 years of similar treatment. You probably saved my life. A grateful stranger. I'd gotten dozens of messages like this over the past year. People who recognized themselves in my story, who found the strength to stop making excuses for people who didn't deserve them. It turned out that my mistake, thinking Dana was someone she wasn't, had helped other people avoid making similar mistakes of their own. I opened my laptop and wrote the final paragraph of the book proposal. The woman who abandoned me during surgery taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. That people show you who they are through their actions, not their words. She taught me that love without respect is just manipulation with better marketing. Most importantly, she taught me that I deserved better than what I was accepting. She was right when she called me a mistake. I was her mistake, the husband who finally stopped making excuses for inexcusable behavior. And in becoming her mistake, I became my own salvation. I saved the document and closed the laptop. Outside, I could hear the sound of neighbors talking on their porches, dogs barking, cars passing on the street. The ordinary sounds of people living ordinary lives, making ordinary mistakes and extraordinary choices. Tomorrow I would visit Marcus in the hospital, have lunch with Bethany, work on the book that would help other people recognize their own worth. But tonight, I would simply sit in my quiet house and appreciate the life I'd built after learning to stop accepting less than I deserved. Dana had been wrong about many things, but she'd been right about one. I was a mistake. I was the mistake that taught her the difference between consequences and forgiveness, between accountability and cruelty. I was the mistake that reminded her that actions have meaning, that choices have costs, that love is earned rather than assumed. I was her mistake, and I was proud of it. Because sometimes being someone's mistake is the best thing you can be.